Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video with me, Shruti. You're watching Living Our Ascension, and we're here on this beautiful, I think it's Tuesday today, so it's a Tuesday afternoon, and it's really nice and sunny today, so I thought that I would take this opportunity to film this video. Basically, I don't have a title for it yet. I just want to speak about whatever's been happening since the Pleiadian gateway that we had during the middle towards the end of May 2018, and now we're in June. It's early June, so it's only been a couple of weeks, and usually during the Pleiadian gateway, which is this galactic portal that opens up, where these galactic codes start pouring in, and especially for those who are volunteer souls, it becomes a really activating time for us. And so I wanted to speak about just a little bit about what was happening, and how it's been changing our lives recently. So stay tuned if you want to listen to that. I'm trying to keep this video kind of short and not go on and just mention like the main points that I have. So as always, this time of the year when we have the Galactic Pleiadian gateway, when the sun is in the galactic degrees of Taurus, as it was towards the middle and end of May, and we also have it in November, by the way, but I always find that this is the most activating time for me and for a lot of people out there who have these higher missions. And you don't also have to belong to the Pleiades and have that star lineage. It's also whenever we activate a certain level of service, whenever we are serving something greater than just even planetary level of service, then anyone who is attuned to that level, help will be given and assistance will be given in how we can best serve at that level, because that's really needed at this time on our planet. But what happened this time was, I really felt how usually we have like a lot of ascension symptoms, and there's all of these cosmic things that are happening. I've had instances in the past years where I would just be sitting and suddenly this activation would start, as we have these galactic activations with our guides, and they suddenly start to move through the body. This new energy starts to move through the body, creating new channels and pathways of this just higher flow and energy, and then different ways of receiving can open up, whether that's through our inner knowing, our inner feeling expands, things like telepathy, and just these higher senses start to open up in different ways, and these channels. But this time was quite different, and I really feel how with every gateway that we have, with every year, it just gets more and more physical, and somehow things just become more grounded. And what happens is that, especially if we have already activated ourselves to a certain level, in the past few years, and otherwise, if we have already been through those preparations where the body vessel is prepared, to receive spirit guidance, and also if we have landed a certain level of our I am presence, then automatically we receive the guidance. We don't always need to be these upgrades, they continuously happen. So the body is already kind of prepared, and it's all very much within the body rather than an experience that is of the external, like your guides coming and helping you, which is also very sacred, but it's just different levels. And for the master, it just becomes more of that, something that's just internally happening, and it's just more seamless between the higher realms and the physical realms. So this time I really noticed how there really wasn't very much of those cosmic type of experiences happening, and it just became much more about the activation of our service and just these new life paths that we perhaps even desired for a long time, and new timelines opened up. So it became much more of a physical thing. And there was a lot that was happening through relationships. The past two videos that I've made also spoke about this, but a lot of the codes that were coming through, instead of being received through these cosmic initiations, were happening through reflections with other people. And what I noticed especially this time was these heart orgasms, these heartgasms, I guess you can say. And the first stage of our ascension has to do with activating the higher heart within ourselves first. So you open up your own higher heart, through the process of self-mastery and coming into your empowerment. And a lot of that again has to do with the feedback that we get through our relationships. But the initial stages is when we are empowering ourselves. But I noticed such a big difference this time in how, for example, something simple like when I was hugging people, I could feel my heart chakra churning in a way that it hadn't before, and it was like this connection with another person that was being formed. And it's almost like before, where it was more about again our own heart chakra opening up fully to love and everything around us, and being connected to the inner realms, which is basically the inner realms relate to the universe, the whole of the universe that lies within us. So that connection was being formed before, but now it especially when we meet people who have like a certain level of heart openness as well, something else was happening, and it's hard to put into words, but basically when I really felt this the feeling was more expansive than I've ever felt, with another person. So when I'm on my own, for example, I'm always feeling this expansive energy. But when I'm meeting other people, for example, it's a different energy that's formed. A lot of the time, other people may not be as activated, or even if they are, it's it can be initially it can be a little bit different when you intermingle with the energy of another person, and it creates something else. So that takes some getting used to. But this time it was just so seamless, and I felt how there was just this expansion that was automatically happening. It's like the main energies of the higher heart were being channeled for that purpose, for the expansion of this greater energy that's created when two hearts combine. So that was very, very prevalent at this time. And I'm not sure how it's going to play out, because sometimes it takes a while, first we will feel something at an inner level, then we will see the manifestation of that in the physical. And of course, one manifestation of that is the relationships that we are running into now as well. There's a feeling of them becoming more grounded. Just this whatever desire we have, it shows up right in front of us, and it's kind of in a magical way, and also it's like it's so physical that it doesn't almost like it doesn't feel like supernatural anymore. So the magic has really seeped into the physical. That's how it feels. Like it feels the ordinary is so magical now, that that we're getting used to that, and it's not so surprising anymore when it happens. Of course, it's an expansive feeling, but there isn't that sense of big surprise that we used to have. So we can feel, with every year, this just becomes more and more pronounced. So take note of where in your life, if you're feeling these expansive heart moments with others, that's definitely a sign of what we are supposed to do. Because again, when the energy of two people, when it forms this something greater, it has to do with service. So again, and the thing to remember is also that we can have these perceptions that relationships are always meant to last, and those are the good ones and the other ones are not. But remember, I think I've mentioned a few times before that we are in the age of Aquarius. We're ushering in that age. In the coming decades, perhaps, is when it'll be more here in the physical sense. But for those of us who are leading the way into the ascension timeline and frequencies, living in the fifth dimensional frequencies on the planet, we are already living that age. It's already here for us because we activated ourselves to the highest wave possible that is already present on the planet. So when you activate yourself, you will live those timelines. And in the Aquarius age, if you know a little bit of astrology, the sign of Aquarius is like one of the symbol is a lightning strike, and that's what it's the characteristic of that age has to do with that quality as well, of like these sudden things happening, suddenly you meet someone and suddenly they go. So the age of Aquarius, within this age there are going to be there might be we might be feeling less stability in our relationships, but we will be attracting exactly the ones that we need, for our higher service. And there tends to be, because it also rules, the sign of Aquarius rules like network circles and large networks. One of its symbols is like mass fame, for example, as well. So it's about many people, meeting many people, but you're not close to any of them necessarily. It's more like these short meetings, and in that moment you exchange whatever needs to be exchanged. It's kind of like, the higher meaning of it has to do with like this universal brotherhood, that when you meet anyone, you see your reflection in them, and their reflection in you, because we are the same, we are one. And there doesn't need to be that level of close commitment in that you're seeing them every day or there's an exchange every day. But whenever you meet, it's like it's potent, and whatever needs to be exchanged for the highest good, for service, because Aquarius is all about service, service for the highest fulfillment of humanity, the highest ambition that we have as humans for humanity. So remember that, like if relationships come and go, if connections come and go, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because we have been conditioned in our society to believe that, only long-lasting things are of quality. But this age is also about that, about these many connections, and just knowing that whatever's in front of you in the moment is you, and to experience that oneness, that this sense of oneness doesn't just lie in one other person. Rather, it's in whatever's in front of you right now, because all is you. So this theme is really important, and we are being initiated into that as well. And the thing is that when we live this way, just one person can come into our life and activate all of those codes that we needed for our now, for everything to get activated at the highest level, if we are ready, and if that's something that we choose. But it'll be exactly what we needed, and it might even cover many different areas of life, just whatever one thing that they reflect to you, or whatever you are inspired by when you see them, for example, because that often happens in relationships. It'll activate exactly what you need. And when that So as I was saying, the thing about the Aquarian age is that, these connections, they will activate exactly what you needed for that moment, and it'll touch upon different areas of life as well. So for example, there's only one thing that you needed to see and activate in your life, but it'll influence and better, more than just one area of your life. And because that's how the master lives, we live right in the center of the vortex, because when we have landed our I am presence, it's like you're at the center of the tornado, the whirlwind that's there. And if you're out of alignment even just a little bit, that's where it can get very chaotic. Like there can be a big difference between being in center and then suddenly getting lost in that vortex. So in almost like in a way, you are forced to be in the center because that's what you've chosen. You've chosen that central place, your vortex of source. And relationships, they really help us to show us what we need to move into next, what we need to serve next. So it's really important to release any feelings of guilt that you might have about failing in relationships, and all of those things that are more based in society and what society expects of us. Because remember, if you are on the Ascension timeline, you are here for service, and that's the main number one thing that you're doing. So speaking more about relationships, then we're getting very strong signs. We have been getting, we were, and we will continue to, about what in the moment is right. So for example, I as an Ascension guide, because I've activated myself to a certain frequency, I always run into people who are activating themselves to the Ascension timeline. Oftentimes they're at the very beginning stages, and they don't even know that that they that they have this mission, that they have certain soul codes. And a lot of the time, I have to just keep quiet, and it's just something that I know, that only I know. revealed to me, because often, like if I'm stepping out and I'm going to, like, let's say an event, or just anywhere, whatever it might be, or just where I randomly find myself, often I'll just run into people and I'll wonder what my role is there. Like, I mean, if it's not really there, like sometimes like things are more mundane, like you go to an event and there wasn't really anything that juicy for you there, something that interests you all that much, but you might be there for because we are working at different levels, and you might be serving through your light. And sometimes, often what happens is there'll be just that one person that I had to meet, and later it'll be shown to me why. And so these kind of signs were very, very prevalent. They're becoming stronger because we're accepting more of this role of being this activator of the Earth's grid, and activator of others as well. So we're all graduating to the next level in our service in one way or another when it comes to serving the Earth's grid. And one way is directly, when we just anchor light through our physical vessel. Like, you're not doing anything, like I'm just standing here right now, but I'm in this beautiful state of divine love, that most people have not anchored yet. So just by your presence, first of all, you do a lot just through that. But then secondly, the other way that you help to form these grids also is through the human network, not just what's happening energetically in the earth, but also amongst human hearts. And so we're embracing more of that role as well. And it's not only professionally, for example, like I'm doing now as an Ascension guide, and I'm putting my work out there, but just generally in mundane, everyday life as well. So the more acceptance and realization that comes to us about what we serve at a physical level, through our physical body and just through our presence, then it becomes very easy, because we don't question so much, why am I here at this place, what was the need for this, or why did this relationship just come and go. When there's more of that acceptance, then things start to flow much easier. So this is something that I'm being guided to convey to anyone watching as well, that this is happening. So if you're finding random things like this happen in your life, that may be the reason, and it's time for us then to accept our role in this, and to just know we are taken care of within this larger web that is creation. And it's time to really release all of those attachments that we had to different things that we attach to our security, and just let know that you are secure when you are serving the divine, and to just allow things to happen, and breathe easy a little bit as well. And so yeah, one of the ways is, like I explained at the beginning of this video, is those heartgasms that are happening as well. And you can feel that wherever you feel your heart, whatever your heart is beating to, just what you're passionate about, for example, in life, your heart will beat for it, and you'll feel that passion for it. And that's how you know that that's your direction in life. So higher heart activations are the same way, that if you are feeling those activations at certain times or with certain people, that that's the right direction for you in the now. And you just have to first accept it fully, open it up fully, and then the understanding comes after that, that why it's needed or why it was needed. But just allow that openness first. So these higher heart activations are very important and happening now. The heart is expanding. It's expanding to more people. Then another point is that we have, another thing I noticed is that we have more energy, because again, it was a galactic portal, and we activated a new level of being if we were ready, because that potential was there. And for those of us who are in service, we whatever the highest energy that's flowing and coming in, we just kind of soaked it up, so it activated us. And now we have more life energy. So the allocation of our life energy is also shifting. One way in which I already explained, in a few ways, like through partnerships and more focus on just becoming this person who is the center, and is kind of lighting up the grid in different ways, in the human grid and the Earth's grid, and accepting of that role. But also there's creative expansion, like it always happens. Something, different gateways trigger a new mission, even if it's something just very small, but it'll be something like a significant change from within us that we usually feel. And I find that, for example, I have more energy and I know how to use it better. I'm observing that within myself, as opposed to the past few years where it was a bit more scattered, perhaps. And of course it was needed, because different areas of our life needed to come up, and be purified and become empowered. And so you might be finding yourself, more centered now, or at least more focused and knowing which direction to go in. So because these gateways, these galactic gateways, bring many things together, because they're of a higher nature. So different parts and pieces, they come together and then becomes one. And then that becomes the focus point. That's the center point again of our vortex. And we find ourselves standing there, knowing what to do. And some of these things that are happening now is that we are being shown these really grand visions, which is always, the case with me, but especially during these galactic portals, we will be shown, often some of these grander visions for ourselves, these dreams that we might have about what we want to, let's say, achieve. Or and sometimes they can just be random, or they can be shown to us again through relationships or whatever else. And often, if you find that trigger, like that relationship left, like you had certain dreams and you were like, wow, and you see it in that person, in what they're doing or how they are, and then they leave suddenly, it's because they just needed to show you that that's something, that's a desire within you. And so hopefully then we become more focused about being able to create this on our own, because that's always, what we need to do is embrace that energy from within, know that we are the creator of anything in our lives, and even the people that come and the qualities that they bring are just a reflection of what we've activated. So so pay attention to that as well. And some of these visions can be really grand, and I often, because there's a certain feeling that I get for these bigger visions. So for example, my life, it followed like a particular order, like this. So for example, the country that I was in before this, I was in Eastern Europe, and I've only been here in San Francisco for less than a year now, maybe 10 months or something. But back then I used to, I had this desire to go out and meet more people, especially, who are living a lifestyle like mine, like who are vegan, and to have availability, more availability of such products as well, to be able to enjoy this lifestyle. And I used to feel that desire really strongly within, and I spoke about it even when it was happening, back then. And suddenly then I found myself here, in San Francisco, where it's like, this is the perfect place for that. It's probably one of the best places, to live that kind of a lifestyle. So this is how we create, and especially, this is my frequency is all about this, because I have Lyran codes. And Lyra, it was revealed to me, through my own inner knowing, is that Lyrans have to do with this energy of dreaming and dreaming into being, because that's just, the level that they work with, is this conceptualization and just, dreaming into being, just thinking something and there it is, it manifests. So depending on certain codes that we have, but everybody has this ability, it's just different it looks different for different people. And I was just giving you my own example, but you will have your own beautiful qualities. But we are able to manifest this way, and we are becoming these really strong manifestors. So the example that I was giving was that then I'm here, and it almost feels like I created this. Suddenly one moment I was thinking, and the next moment I'm suddenly there, and it's like a this moment of realization. And it was the same when I went to Croatia, the place that I was in before that. I just wanted to be in a quiet place, that had the mountains, and I remember, once I was even sitting with a map, and I put my hand on just randomly on the map, and I touched that place, where I was, Croatia, and that's where I found myself after that. So it's it's hard to explain, but basically, we dream of something, and those visions can be so grand, and we don't even know how it'll happen or whether it'll happen or in what way, but it's just it accompanies, it comes up with this really grand feeling of something being larger than yourself, and this larger than the planet, feeling. If I'm explaining it, right. And such visions are coming up now. So when these visions are accompanied by this larger than life feeling, you know that they're true. They might look a little different from how you're imagining it now, but they will land. So be sure to honor that. You can even do sacred rituals where you sit and kind of like in a meditative state, visualize that, because that the more that we accurately visualize it, it becomes a more seamless process of us not struggling, and that vision just coming to be. Then one more point that I wanted to add was that if you watched my videos at the end of last year, at the end of 2017, I think it was in November, or October, November, around that time, when Saturn was changing signs in astrology. And Saturn, is one of the outer planets. So when it changes signs, it triggers like a long cycle. And so it's kind of like our destiny almost, changes for the next 2.5 years. And however, even though it completed whatever cycle it was in before, because it's been about 6 months now or something, because cycles are not that exact, like they have some overlapping themes, because when something ends, then we take a while to fully emerge from that energy, from what we have known. So you can really feel like that, those timelines now ending. So for instance, I spoke about how Saturn was in my 6th house. The 6th house is the house of health and the body and work and everything, but mainly it affected my health, and I went through like a huge big change, and now I'm really feeling how that has come almost coming to a completion now. So we've ended that cycle, even though it ended, let's say, in October and November. Now we're really feeling Saturn move into, how Saturn moved into the next sign. So for example, for me, it's in the 7th house of relationships now. So some of the lessons and, the mastery that will go on in these 2 years, it'll be about relationships, and basically it's that house. It's also the house of business as well. But if you know your chart, if you follow astrology, then notice how, this might be the case as well with this Pleiadian gateway, because it activates higher timelines. So these more physical timelines and higher, it almost felt like, that finally came into completion, and we're finally kind of more moving towards the next one, and things are becoming more physical there, and those lessons have really started kicking in at a much more physical level. Then the next point that I want to mention is about service upgrades, and I've been getting messages about how people need higher technologies now. So we can have like a lot of knowledge, for example, as an ascension guide, and going through my own ascension process, I might know certain things, but I'm not guided to always share everything with everyone. It really depends on what's needed for our service, and when you are in service, you will be shown what's needed for people. And now every 6 months or so, I'll be shown that there's a need for an upgrade somehow. So what happened was that I made a painting, I think about a few weeks ago. Well, I didn't complete the painting. I actually just made a sketch one day. And it was of my feminine side and the masculine side, like a woman and a man. And they were standing on top of the earth. So there's the huge earth globe, and they're standing on top of it. And there's a huge rainbow, above them, like a gate, like a rainbow gate. And they're standing on the planet. And what happened was that right after that I sketched that, and I'll often sketch something like this, not knowing exactly what it means, but having that grand, beautiful feeling of heart opening. And I know that, whenever I draw something like this, it has to do with an energy that's landing. So basically I drew that, and then after that I attracted a relationship after a really long time, and I spoke about it in a previous video. And I wasn't, at the beginning, like when I started, I wasn't sure about this person, because they weren't into spirituality, and there were other things, and spirit will always bring these messages in synchronistic ways, because I'd sketched this, and then one day and they don't really know about spirituality, but they had a dream and they told me about it, and they said that they saw that there's this place, and it's in California, and it's called Gaia's Gate. I think they called it, Gaia's Gate, and they really want to go there. It had these beautiful colors, and it was like really stunning, with these like almost like unearthly colors. And the second that they said that, I remembered the sketch that I'd made, because it was so similar, with the male and female standing on Gaia. And this person didn't even know, what Gaia is actually, because like I said, they don't really follow spirituality. They knew that it had to do with like the Greek myth, but they didn't know about the spiritual significance. But it had a message for me. I needed to hear that too, because it was like, trust that this is the path for the now. And again, the path for the now, often certain codes need to be exchanged, but that doesn't mean that it'll always last. So even when people come to me for guidance, sometimes they want to know, like, is this relationship right for me, or is this job right for me, or should I do this? And whenever you are getting guidance, whether that's through somebody else, through the help of someone else like me, or whether it's through you, there's no shortcuts in life. So we always have to be humble in our service. It's about humility, and we will always be shown what is right for the now, for this moment, and we have to fully embrace that. There, as long as you have all of these guards up, that you're kind of holding back a piece of yourself, and being skeptical. And of course, we need to weigh everything. Like, we need to see if something is right for us and make a decision. But the moment that we're only half into something and half not, then, that's not a sincere, that's not really divine love. So, anyway, I forgot what the point that I was making with this. So, for example, such paintings, I've been guided to make them, because that's really the highest way, one of the highest ways that we can see clearly what codes are landing, and then I can speak about it in my service through these videos. And at the same time, those paintings, I'll probably put them on sale on my Etsy shop, so that's one example of how things become more efficient, when we are guided to do them through spirit. They will have multiple purposes. That's an example of how, we are getting more efficient with our life force and our service. It's becoming more focused and exact. And we're always guided, exactly what is the best way to do it in the now that will be the most efficient. So for example, a painting like that would serve two purposes. One is to know, for me to know what codes are landing, and to be able to share that in a visual format, with everyone, so that they too can, it can anchor something within them. Something blossoms when you look at a picture that depicts something that's already flourishing from within you, but maybe you haven't realized. And at the same time, I might probably put them on my Etsy shop, for sale as well. So that's another purpose that they serve. So you see, this is just one example of how we are shown, like when we're open, what the best way to serve is. And one thing serves multiple purposes, like a painting serving me as well as serving others, serving these multiple purposes. Okay, so that's it from me, you guys. I did film a little bit more, but the camera stopped, so I think it's time for me to stop this video. And the information that I have that I wanted to share, I think I'll just make another video for it. And please check out my website, which is www.livingourascension.com, where you can find all kinds of different services that I have for you to accelerate your ascension journey, to come fully into the ascension timeline, and just different kinds of services that help us to remember what we are at a high level, and to really bring in those qualities at a physical level. So check that out. Please subscribe to this channel if you would like more videos, and I do have some more coming up. I hope that you are liking, this new format that I have, which is more speaking through these videos rather than those daily updates. So it's something different that I'm trying. And that's it from me. I'll see you again very soon, and bye.
Taking a picture by yourself?
No, it's a video. I'm making a recording. Yeah.
What's your name? What's your name? Let's go.
I think dogs really like me.